This really makes you wonder the stability of San Francisco property. Because San Francisco, we're not talking about some C tier class city, we're talking about like a triple A city. Tech, multi-billion dollar real estate deals, and we're seeing skyscrapers, expensive real estate all over the city. But now, with some of the most expensive towers selling for 50% off, it makes you wonder, okay, really does make you wonder how these small regional banks are going to survive through this. And it also makes you scratch your head, is this condo in San Francisco, like a random one, like this one, even worth $689,000? If so many whole entire buildings are selling for 50% off, maybe these buildings aren't even worth like the true listed price. Like this condo, $689K, maybe it's only worth $400, even $300K. This is what's really scary about some of these transactions, because this is not valuations. This is not just numbers on a paper. This is literal transactions. People actually bought these buildings for this set amount of price. And look at this massive San Francisco apartment complex, or should I say an office complex. This is 201 Spear Street, right? And yes, we're seeing a lot of big companies going to San Francisco, and people are thinking that they're buying these office buildings to convert to residential. No, they're not doing that, right? This building will probably never be an apartment because it won't cost $1,000 per square foot to do so. So 201 Spear Street in San Francisco's Mission District will be selling for less than what traded for a decade ago. 10 years ago, the original buyers got this building for $120 million, which seems pretty right because a decade ago, real estate prices are generally way more cheaper, right? And even in many cities are struggling, like Seattle, New York, Hong Kong, for example. If you bought a building 10 years ago, you could still sell it for a decent profit now because you had 10 years of price appreciation. In many suburban neighborhoods and suburban cities in America, if you bought it 10 years ago, now you're doubling, even tripling your money on some of those properties. But for this property here, 201 Spear Street, imagine buying a property 10 years ago for $120 million and now you sold it for $60 million. And with inflation going on, $120 million back 10 years ago is worth so much more than it is now. So this is some scary stuff, and you have to be pretty down bad to do things. I'm pretty sure that this building is probably completely empty. There's probably no companies in here. And one of the reasons why they're selling for 50% off is most likely vacancies are up higher than 50%. That's just my guess. And this is not just restricted to offices, guys. Even big high-end residential apartment buildings are now down bad as well. This building is in a very good location. It's right next to the X headquarters. It's right next to Uber, Reddit, Lyft, and several other tech startups. Now, this is NEMA. They used to be worth about $580 million before the pandemic when it was built, so like 2018. Now it's worth $279 million. That's the most recent valuation from the banks. And that's pretty bad. See, people always talk about how San Francisco real estate is really restricted to just offices. But in fact, we already got whole entire apartment complexes dropping 50% in value. And what about these massive towers here, right? Like, what about these, like 399 Fremont? What about these cool and very, very nice apartment buildings? Are these worth what it's the listed price? Because some of these 2 bedrooms are still listed for $2 million. Maybe it's not worth that much anymore. And look at this office building. It's a really, really good location, right? You're next to some of the most expensive condos in San Francisco, and you manage to sell for 50% off the original price that you bought for a decade ago. That's some really, really shocking stuff. And remember, 201 Spear Street is not a lousy building in a lousy area. It's in probably the most high-end office area in all of San Francisco, right? You're next to the Salesforce Tower, 181 Fremont, and you're next to probably the most expensive penthouses in California. This is where all that's located. So this is actually some frightening stuff, because right next door you have like the Stewart Lane condo building, which is selling for record prices. But if your neighbor is selling the whole entire building 50% off, it makes buyers really scratch their heads. Did I really get juked on this deal? Okay. So this is some really bad things. And then you got WeWork coming in to make things even more sour. They just rejected 500,000 square feet of Bay Area leases in the bankruptcy filing. And they're probably going to be defaulting a $250 million loan on a San Francisco skyscraper as well. This is one of the craziest rises and falls ever in a rental market. San Francisco used to be a city where people were dying to get an office space. People are willing to get a crack box for $3,000 a month. But now people don't even want high-end office space. High-end office space like this on Spear Street is hard to get before the pandemic. Now nobody wants it, right? Same thing that's happening to the Mission. People are saying that in the Mission, especially Valencia Street, people were always fighting tooth and nail to get one of those vacant spots, and you never see a vacant spot. But now there's vacant spots everywhere in the Mission and Valencia Street. So times have really changed, and it just seems like a lot of people just no longer come to the Bay Area anymore to work. In fact, the downtown is so bad and so deserted that even the McDonald's in downtown is now closing down. Generally speaking, McDonald's in a decently foot traffic area will always get very good business. The owner has got this McDonald's for 30 years. Imagine shutting down this year after all the stuff you went through. Like the economic crisis in the 90s. You also have the dot-com bubble in 01, the 08 crisis. You went through the pandemic in 2020. And now 2023 was the last straw. Eventually, nobody really came back. All the tech companies who are always screaming in tech is all moving online because that's the tech thing to do. And with so many office workers no longer commuting in San Francisco, and even the federal building employees are asked to work from home because of terrible street conditions, this McDonald's is forced to shut down. And I don't ever see a McDonald's shut down. Have you? Like, these are usually stores that do very, very well. But when you don't even have people on the streets, of course, this McDonald's is not getting that much business. So they're shutting down after 30 years. And I think this could be the end of San Francisco. Whole entire buildings selling for 50% off. You barely have any construction in the city. And of course, you have big landlords like these, WeWork, who were like the massive darling unicorns back then with massive billion market cap, valuations, are now just dropping like rocks. Right? Many of these buildings are selling 50% off. We're seeing this type of news every single day. There's foreclosures every single day. And it's just a really scary situation to be in if you're like a developer or a landlord. Office vacancies hit a new high. Rents are continuing to drop in San Francisco. Now, the vacancies reported back in September was like 33 to 34%. But now people are saying that's more like 38% to 39% because it ticks up about 3 to 4% every single quarter, which is every single 3 months. But here's the thing about this. Many of these leases have not ended yet. A lot of the leases in San Francisco are still leased out, despite not having any office workers. Like 181 Fremont, they're probably going to report themselves as being leased out, despite their 500,000 square foot of office space being completely empty. Fremont is one of those buildings where it's like very high end. And even now, condos are still selling for like $2 million a pop for a 2-bedroom. And it's right next to Salesforce Tower. This is a very high-end location, one of the most expensive condos in all of the West Coast, not just in the Bay Area. And guess what's happening? Facebook vacated out 500,000 square footage of space, but the building's still leased out because Facebook got it signed to 2031, so they still got to pay it. But in reality, I think vacancies are more like 50, 70% in certain buildings and neighborhoods, which is truly frightening. So thanks for watching, guys. Comment below. Subscribe for more San Francisco, Bay Area, and other city real estate pieces and news. Very interesting stuff we're going through. One of the most interesting real estate transitions I've ever seen.